Samantha B. Last night, the State of the Union address that almost wasn't, was. Absolutely everyone was there, from Ted Cruz, who looked like a Civil War general who was not allowed back in the Union, to Trump's cabinet members, who were just there to hand out their resumes before the president inevitably fires them. They were not ready for prime time. Now I understand why Trump keeps them in a cabinet. With another looming legal disaster, not to mention his recent defeat over the shutdown, of course Trump promised a bipartisan tone for his State of the Union. We're at the part of the movie where the villain is losing and goes,
"You and I are not so different."
That actually is Trump. He's just using his CPAP machine. Trump did issue a number of sweeping calls for bipartisanship, unity, and teamwork. Of course, his behavior outside of the 90 minutes when he addressed Congress told a different story.
The agenda I will lay out this evening is not a Republican agenda or a Democrat agenda. We will govern not as two parties, but as one nation. Victory is not winning for our party. Victory is winning for our country.
Trump said Speaker Nancy Pelosi is nice to him in private, but then says terrible things about him on camera. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, he added, can be a nasty SOB. When Biden says something dumb, it's because he's dumb.
Even be bipartisan for an afternoon. But then he probably thinks bipartisanship is some sort of swingers cruise. Yes, hello, I would like one ticket for the bipartisanship, please. All the partisans are chicks, right? It's fine if they're bi. Turns out, Trump is pretty dull to watch when he's not shrieking things that send you into permanent fight or flight mode. 11-year-old Joshua Trump, who was invited by the president after being bullied over his last name, even fell asleep during the speech. Damn, Joshua, that is one hell of a power move. And with that, an 11-year-old boy became the bravest person in Congress. You know, I'm amazed he was able to sleep so close to porcelain Gorgon, Jared Kushner. There were a lot of very important guests last night. War heroes, Buzz Aldrin, Alice Johnson, and Jared Kushner wanted so badly to connect with truly any of them. Don't make eye contact with Jared or he'll bore you to death with his skincare routine. Here's his skin secret. You know those little fish that nibble off dead skin? Jared's one of those. Now, as expected, Trump also called for restricting abortion rights.
I am asking Congress to pass legislation to prohibit the late-term abortion of children who can feel pain in the mother's womb.
My ovaries just tried to move back to Canada. This is worrying. All Republicans try to restrict abortion rights, but Trump might have the Supreme Court to do it. You know, I always knew someday a Republican president would manage to take away my right to choose. I just didn't think it would be the kind of president who's definitely tried to go Dutch on an abortion. Oh my God, this should not be your thing. Trump made a lot of promises last night, but they're not very credible because, you know, it's him. For example, he made a promise to eradicate HIV in America by 2030.
My budget will ask Democrats and Republicans to make the needed commitment to eliminate the HIV epidemic in the United States within 10 years.
Great. If there's one person who's cut out to fight disease, it's the guy who thinks science is a Chinese hoax. Ending HIV is a worthy goal. It might be a more achievable goal if Trump hadn't fired his entire HIV/AIDS advisory panel with no explanation, diverted funds from HIV/AIDS services to cover the increased costs of baby cages, stopped a study that was researching a cure, and repeatedly rolled back protections for LGBTQ people who are disproportionately affected by HIV. And also, and this is true, he does not know the difference between HIV and HPV, which means he probably saw a commercial for Gardasil and thought, damn, this is gonna be so easy. Or maybe he watched Rent Live last week. Oh my God! Of course he did, it was on Fox. Maybe Fox needs to air more live musicals. How about In the Heights to teach him about immigration, The Lion King, so he'll make Don Jr. and Eric stop shooting lions, or Les Miserables, so he can get a taste of what's coming. We'll be right back.